waiting for that America thing.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Crafty Crows. Those who don't know me, I'm Josephine Lay, but I think most of you do. Tonight, we haven't got Jason with us, unfortunately, but we've got Peter sitting in the chair, and I'm sure he's going to do a great job. So we've got a few open mics to start us off in a moment. And then we've got an extended open mic for Karlostheunhappy, and I'm really looking forward to that. And then we're going to have a break at about 8 o'clock. And after that, we're going to be listening to Nigel Kent reading poems from his newly released, I knew that was going to happen.
Books.
Unmuted. Okay, that's brilliant. So without more ado, I've got to find what I've done with my poem. Oh yes, here we go. Now, I was very fortunate to have a couple of my poems published in Jason Conway's Steel Jackdaw. And so I'm going to do one of those, excuse me, this evening to start everybody off. I wrote this after reading about the destruction of ancient woodland for the HS2 rail link. Such unnecessary evil. The army of yellow tanks advance, intent on waging war against a blockade of ancient wood. Dust swirls as diggers attack the aged trees with smack of metal on living wood. Jaws of JCBs close, clench and heft, tearing root bowl from soil that's fed it down a century of summers. Branches thrash and flail, shudder of ground as each titan falls. Above the devastation, rooks wheel and caw as woven nests detach, scattering moss, feather and broken shell. This rape of spring leaves no darling bud on dog rose, no frond of hawthorn blossom to be shaken by rough winds in May. Only shoots and catkins trampled underfoot by human greed. Thank you. Well, I hope my voice lasts and I haven't caught one of those man colds. Okay, everybody. Yes, we'll get straight on with our first open mic, and it's great pleasure to invite Pratibha Castle. Big hand for Pratibha.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here and see everybody again. Okay, I'm going to do a couple of short poems, and this one, the first one was printed in Ink, Sweat and Tears, or by Ink, Sweat and Tears, on the National Poetry Day, and it's called Be Careful What You Wish. As a girl, I learnt to wish myself invisible on the front seat atop a double-decker bus, believed I was a black hole, choking on gossipy fug, players smoke, lonely, women's sighs, the clippy perceiving no one where I sat, lumbering back along the aisle past the no spitting on buses sign. In a spin of schools, quick to switch as a card sharp's chicanery, or my mother's mood, taunts zephyr soft could never break me, for I wasn't there. I applied myself to investigating emptiness, convinced I was the pause in music, between thoughts, air in the hollow bones of birds. A missive spun from clouds by a swift more luminous than pity, understood by those alone with senses more than 5. Having banished myself, dismantled tooth, hair, child's spaniel yelp, grown flimsier than my granny's ghost, I established how to melt through walls. Day by day, my photo on the mantle faded, bleached features growing fainter, like an often laundered stain, dissolving to a blur. Years on, in Regent's Park, there was a man with eyes that looked. I tried to wish myself anew, re-embody muscle, flesh, plumping over sternum, hips. All I managed was a hand flaccid as a starling fallen from the clouds. And that man, casting not a clout, passed on by, left me, stringless kite, adrift. Thank you. And this one is called With Peppy in Ellings Park. I promised you a poem, a word sketch of when I romped with you and Lupa on the cliff, astonished at the small owl still awake, sail-winged hawk before my face, gall of the dog owner who laid hands on me, his excuse to brush off mud. You a snowy tail tip, yip, the crunch of twigs, snuffling quarry in the scrub. Pink tongue lolloping, you reappear, panting from the chase, toss your skewbald body by my feet. I track words, wing beats in the void, bone words succulent with marrow, words wily as a stoat. You lap water from my hand, sparkle the air about with pearls of light. Words frolic, pages white wings flutter, my pencil swoops. Thank you.
Brilliant poems. Thank you, Pratibha. Please unmute and give Pratibha a good round of applause for starting us off so well. Thank you. Okay, we will go straight on to Anya Whiteside, please. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to do two. The first one's quite positive and the second one's quite sad, so they might complement. So, gloriously older. Why should I fear leaving young womanhood behind when all around me stand older women, glorious as trees that have held firm, laughing through storms? Did I see how much of the sky you held up for me as I waltzed beneath your canopy? I see you now, all around me, like magnificent brass pots of life, light reverberating off every dent, pouring through every crack, bathing me in warmth. I know the path will be glorious. You have shown me the way. Thank you. And then the second one is about a miscarriage I had 5 years ago, before I had my two boys. And this is a poem I wrote at the time and have brought to life since, I guess. Okay. The hole you left. You came like a bolt into my womb and into my heart. And then my body and my world fell down. You were so loved for that short time that I carried you. A paper cutout of a life full of future, crumpled, discarded, as a fluttered heartbeat stops and bloody pulp gets flushed away. My body throbs with loss, achingly knowing you are not there. This is grief without the memories to anchor back to. Only the space where your tiny form would have parted the air is gone. I can still taste the place you would have been, in my plans, in my dreams, in my arms.
Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you, Anya. Please, for being so brave too. Big round of applause for Anya.
Thank you.
Very much. Okay. Next up, we have Margaret Royal. Welcome.
Thank you, Josephine. Hello, everybody. I'm so pleased to be here again. I'm going to read you two poems, one very, very short, and they are both from my upcoming new book called Immersed in Blue, which is a series of haibun from my 9 years of writing retreats on the wonderful mystical island of Iona in the Inner Hebrides. The first one is called The Wind as Healer. This wild wind, seed bearer, transporter of memory, sweeping the barren earth with impatient breath, a vagrant in transit, foraging the landscape. His song rises in the sap of ancient trees, in the first raindrops quenching the parched desert thirst and the fanned flames of raging bushfires. In the creak of night, you may catch his banshee wail suspended on thin air, rearranging the features of moon and stars. In the full throttle scorch of midday, he lifts pink mollusk shells from the water's edge, dashing their fragility against crumbling cliffs. He hustles the reluctant ghosts of memory, scooping them out of grieving hearts, filling the empty seat at the dinner table. In turn, a raging force, a benign whimper, shifting mood through dappled dawn to silken sunset, mischievously turning umbrellas inside out. Wind carries the spirit, the eternal soul, inhabits the personal pronoun at the human core, forever restless, powerful, untamable. And second very short one is currently in Black Bough's new Christmas Winter anthology. And it's called Twilight. Clag hugs bare hilltops, blatters fill with siling rain, sough of wind at our backs as we push through. Wimpled wings cast shadow skein on water. Thunderheads threaten. Earth hunkers down, caught in winter's stiff embrace. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Margaret. They were brilliant poems. I look forward to that book, and I am totally envious of your retreats. I've seen the pictures of them. I think, oh, I must see if there's one next year. Thank you. Another big round of applause for Margaret Royal. Thank you so much. Okay. Oh, I did want just to say, I had no idea that that was Anya's first time of reading. Now, normally, if we know that, we give you an enormous big applause and say, welcome, you're, brilliant. And you did absolutely fabulously. So well done. You should be proud of yourself. Okay.
Thank you.
Now, Peter, let's see if this works, because we need to give Lucia Daramus the ability to share.
She should.
Thank you for having me.
You're
Yes,
welcome. It's lovely to have you back, Lucia.
thank you.
Yeah, it works.
I have two poems. First is So Much Autumn by Lucia Daramus to Dr. Jones and Dr. Cooper. So much autumn is inside us. Let me go to open the windows of the words for birds and spring. If you forget me, the branches of the tree will whisper a song about my life. Yes, my poems are written in the roots of a tree, and you and your lover having a walk into the life's forest will listen to my poem songs. But now I am in room number 6 with nurses in blue uniforms around carrying injections for people with flapping imagination in their minds. A door is noisy. A key of the carers is breaking the privacy. And click, click. The carer is inside checking if your minds are still in the present. And doctors that try to understand our words, imaginary words, in delusion stories and behave. They push us to reality, but we as children stuck forever in a concocted narrative in which us fly, fly, fly in imaginative lives and feel and smell an ordinary coffee from the world. Some of us have so much autumn inside crown, but be happy, be happy. Autumn is mean colors, and we pick up these powerful autumn colors and draw with them and our minds the sky. I will ask my doctors what kind of colors prefer, because I will preserve for them a very beautiful painted room in the sky. All of us are birds who will fly. Just a small feast of soil will remain from us. Someday, a cohort of people will say goodbye to us, and some of the earth of us will lay down maybe under a secular tree with colored leaves in its crown, because so much autumn is inside us. Let me fly in life and in death to sing my vibrant poems around trees and clouds and stars. The wind will carry out on its wings my poems forever in the future, a future like an orange sun. Its rays will come up and come down with my poetry lines, because the voices said me, we feel that so much autumn is inside us, autumn inside us. And the second poem is very short. Yes. Bird Singing by Lucia Ramos. Rain, 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 with sad feathers falling down from an angel's wings, metamorphosed into ashes of cherubs, kissing the forehead of the ill. The examination is revealed. No symptoms of fever, no broken bones, no high pressure, but the poet is nearly dead. The examination is revealed. The patient has a deep lack of love, love from the entire world. The poet is suffering. She is ill. Her voice is around her ears. Smash her brain, brain. But she is speaking for everyone. She has a word, light. Look to the light and run to the light. A friend is someone who is holding your hand, running with you to the light, touching your soul with this. So, when I die, let windows open, birds coming in and coming out, singing my poems, and above, only light. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucia. Please, everybody unmute and give Lucia a really big round of applause.
Thank you,
Lucia. Lovely. Look at your comments, because there have been a couple of good comments there. All poets look at your comments on the chat, of course. Okay, moving on. Gosh, we're moving fast. I don't think we've got Michael Collins here, have we?
No.
No. Okay, Laura, would you like to read your poems now? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'll read two poems tonight, fairly happy ones. This time of year is a little frightening for me with the darkness, and always was. This first poem is called Google Hoop Lost. And the word Google Hoop means a big donut-shaped cake in Central Europe. Google Hoop was a time when the days Google Hooped along, and we laughed and lived with babies and chickens, and the goats Google Hooping out on the pastures, making Google Hoop dances. And the milk cows sang Google Hooping songs while kicking the milker who shouted, "Google Hoop you!" Those simple days when Google Hoop was our only worry, when Google Hoop was our hope. Before we ate the Google Hoop right up, before they blamed us for Google Hooping too much, before the Hooping sun went down and we were cast out to search anew for angels. Thank you. The next one, a poetry group had a prompt to write celebrating ourselves, which poets, as they said, weren't always good at. So this is what I came up with there. I celebrate myself at the jeweler's today. I celebrate this new day. I start to cry in front of the clerk, mask toward mask, that intimate facing at a distance, the echoed resonance of life between strangers, asking with my voice directed at her voice, at her being, at her sturdy, handsome humanness, if she could fix my watch. I wonder if I should explain. I'm celebrating. It's my first day out to do a normal thing that's not food shopping or pulling the bin up and down the street or throwing a few words at a dog walker up on the lane, where I leash myself, walk hat over belly button, that same stretch of bumpy road I have walked for 10 years, where on Easter Sunday the black-faced sheep had twin lambs. I smile like a sheep at the clerk, who is maybe 30, half my age, but I have an idea she'd understand. She carries her grandma in a sling, carefully, like contraband. I celebrate myself, I say. You could too. I start to cry. She starts to laugh and sigh. We adjust our masks, start a campfire on the floor, and with her gran, we roast marshmallows on silver olive skewers from the store and sing 100 bottles of beer on the wall at the mall.
Brilliant, lovely. Thank you, Laura. Yeah, I think we should all write a poem to celebrate ourselves. That would be a brilliant exercise, wouldn't it? Thank you so much. Okay. Next up, we have Alice Stoner. Welcome.
I always completely freak out when somebody says my name out loud. I don't know why. I really, I know, I kind of just panic. Oh, me!
You with the blue jumper and reddish hair. There you go.
Okay, well, I'm just going to read one if that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not very long. It's just, I think I just prefer to read one. So I wrote this recently for a festival of the arts addressing climate change, and it was sort of built around responses to Psalm 46. mostly an art exhibition, and then there were various other artistic sort of events. So it's a kind of response to Psalm 46, but you don't really need to know anything about Psalm 46. I just took some of the imagery from it. And it's about climate change, and it's called Villanelle for the End of the World. The winds are in uproar, the waters swell, and the shores decay. But overlords sing of Bitcoin and bucks with fingers in their ears. So will the earth go out with a bang, or simply melt away? If you cannot pay the hottest price, cut carbon, don't delay. But the top brass are fiddling as our forest blaze like fears, and the winds are in uproar, the waters swell, and the shores decay. In Greenland, the raindrops sizzle on the ice sheet day on day, and polar caps go bankrupt with their sea debts in arrears. But will the earth go out with a bang, or simply melt away? We dance to the careless jingles our glutted slot machines play, and by turns, on the edge of vision, a musical hoop disappears, while the winds are in uproar, the waters swell, and the shores decay. Step out of diminishing circles, take to the boats, they say. But there's a toll to pay the boatman, who merely grins and jeers. Will the earth go out with a bang, or simply melt away? Whose is the forceful utterance that will keep dissolution at bay? We cannot afford to wait for it in these liquidating years, when the winds are in uproar, the waters swell, and the shores decay. So, will we all go out with a bang, or simply melt away?
Wow.
Thanks, everyone.
Brilliant.
That was brilliant. That was a lovely Villanelle. Really, really well. Well done, Alice. Please, a big hand. Unmute and give a big hand to Alice Statement. Fabulous. Woo. Okay, now we're off to the Philippines with Simon, please. That'd be lovely.
Hi. This is the first one is it's inspired by a Neil Campbell poem called "The Letter Always Arrives at Its Destination," and I just took the last line and used that as the starting point of this poem, and the title I've taken is the first line of his poem. So, and this is just inspired by looking out the window at Manila Bay. Then I wrote often to the sea. I had sent all the light I knew, my prayers a boat I could not afford, but took to sea when life got choppy. When I think of migration, I think of light moving across the water, a steady ripple of change, but then I have no agenda. I fear the mouths of our leaders, their tongues as hurtful as our father's tongue, our father's belt and slipper, the back of our father's hand. If I only look at the ripples, it seems never ending, but each individual wave will break upon hitting the shore and will be turned back and devoured. And then this next one is kind of about loss and grief. And, it's called Crystal Spread. Teach me how to talk to my dead, how to hear them through the burning gale. If prayers are heard, my poem I give, or read my palm or check my pulse. Visiting all our old haunts, whilst my daughter builds a house from Lego. Your laugh knocks kings off their thrones. Fold me in your arms, I'm creased without you. Tell me I'm a fool at last. Tell me to watch my shadow. Say you love life always, the way the trees and sunlight came in. Are you rested? Leave a light on. I might follow if I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. They were lovely poems. I mean, I always expect quirkiness from you, but actually those were beautiful. You hit it perfectly. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Big hand for Simon Aldwick, please. Okay. So we're going on to Agatha Palmer next. But Ivor, are you okay to go on after that? Brilliant. So Agatha.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me.
Hi.
These few poems are from the book that was launched, my pamphlet that was launched in January, entitled From the Land of Marmite with Love. I've got really short poems, so I will fit in 3 minutes. These first 2 are evil twins called Guilty and Acquitted, and they just had to be written at one point. Guilty. Finalizing the divorce petition on Valentine's Day was a coincidence. Sorry, won't change it now. In signing it, I pleaded guilty to a crime. According to my own book of Law and Fairness, page 5 clearly states that ceasing to love you was against my ethics, against humanity, against the vows I meant earnestly at the time. It's punishable by the same happening to me. Acquitted. The same eyes, the blueness of forget-me-nots, once trustworthy, now a metallic challenge. The same hands that steadied me, that caressed our baby's hairy back, now circle my neck, pressing terror into my throbbing artery. Our toddler watching and shouting, "Stop fighting," the echoes bouncing around our terracotta bedroom. He has my mouth. The same lips that colonized the wilderness of our shared passions, now lying under oath. And the third one is really short, just to prove that I don't always write very serious poems. It's from my Moth sequel of Moth poems, Prominent Moth. You are like a movie star from the era of silent films, glamour and shades of grayscale, wearing patterned lace with a fairy trim and staccato heels. I almost expect you to light up a cigarette in a long holder and blow smoke playfully into my eyes. Then, sipping a highball held in a gloved tentacle, you tell me all the secrets of others, overheard in the privacy of candlelight. You indiscreet Greta Garbo of the insect world. Thank you.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Agatha. They were wonderful poems. If you want to put your book into the chat, please do, so we can, because it's a fabulous title. Thank you. Another big hand for Agatha. Okay. Ivor then, please. Ivor Daniels.
Thanks, folks. Well, just a second.
Sorry, I forgot you've got to
There we go.
share. Goody.
We have technology.
And you're working it.
How did that work?
Thanks, Pete. So this was on I Am Wave 7, so thanks to Mark Anthony Allen, and it's called Questions and Starlings. Wow, can the sunset blue, azure and flame at the same time? How do starlings twist and turn as one? Who decided this was called a murmuration? And who was that going behind that awesome tree? No, it couldn't be. Sweeping, turning, swooping, soon arriving from all directions. Swelling, then melting, then swelling. Streamlining safe in such numbers. Pirouetting protection from predators. Twist, turn, swoop, swirl. Your genie is out of the bottle. shape-shifting, unsolid sculpture of starling. You spinning top, you sundown twister. A magic carpet has slipped its cave. A cloud of iron filings dancing from and to an ecstatic magnet. If we could catch the ashes of our loved ones as elegantly as your silken swirl, then that would be the perfect way to go. Intuiting when to turn in complex shifting patterns through a liminal space between remarkable and miracle, flying like no one is watching, or maybe like God could be watching, oblivious of compass points and rocket science, yet also knowing more than this. Murmuration, motion, poetry in motion. Your swarm is the truth, black mustard seed beauty. Then, in the last of daylight, at the secret signal, a final funneling, collective swoop down an unseen chimney to land on your roosting grounds. I labour with my leaden words and muse on whether starlings know how spellbinding they are. And God, is that you behind that awesome tree? Is this the last, the only evidence that you exist? Was this your hobby all along, the choreography of sunset starlings? And is that just the slightest hint of disappointment on your face at how the human cohort of creation has performed? Thank you.
Brilliant. Love that. Brilliant.
Thank you. That was brilliant. Wow. And really good to see on the page. That made it. Thank you, Ivor. Another big hand for Ivor Daniels, please. Okay, Trevor, are you okay to go into the second half? Is that all right?
Hey, Trevor.
Trevor Valentine.
Yes, sorry, I thought you got me in the second half anyway, so I'm a bit confused.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know whether I'd actually said that, but because we've had a few people missing, I just taking.
I'll
people.
go whenever you tell me, Josephine.
Okay, fair enough. Then you're in the second half.
Do waste up.
I think that ends our open mic for the moment, and so we'll go straight on to our extended open mic feature, Carlos the Unhappy. Now, Carlos is one of the GPS poets who has been doing some sterling work, doing some challenges for haikus on the GPS website, which has been on the group page, which has been brilliant. Thank you for that. Carlos the Unhappy is a Welsh-born Forest of Dean-based beat poet, inspired by Jack Kerouac, the moment of brevity of Basho, the self-reflective narrative. I should have practiced this. I can see that. Sorry about this. The self-reflective narrative of Frank O'Hara. Oh, I love him. And oddball imagination of Richard Brautigan. He was editor of the 1990s underground lit scene Beat Surreal. After initial success being published alongside unusual bedfellows Peter Levy and Joanna Trollope, he took a break from writing for 15 years or so to make way for politics and fatherhood. That's a combination in itself. Now he's back with a collection called Oblivion 200, Seasons of Pain and Magic, available through his Gloomy for Pleasure imprint. He was runner-up at this year's Ledbury Poetry Festival Slam and read at the 2021 International Beat Poet Laureate Festival. Please, a big, big warm welcome for Carlos the Unhappy. Please unmute.
Thank you very much. Wow. I can't wait to see whoever this is, because it certainly isn't me you just introduced. Anyway, so by way of introduction, I wanted to begin reading a poem which I read last year as I turned 50. And it's that poem that got me writing again after that 15-year-long gap. And it goes like this. It's called Limits or Goodbyes. There's a line of Verlaine's that I'm not going to read ever again. There's a nearby street that's forbidden to my footsteps. There's a mirror that has seen me for the last time. There's a door I've closed until the end of the world. Among the books in my library, I'm looking at them now. There are some I'll never open again. This summer, I'll be 50 years old. Death invades me constantly. Now, that was written in 1923 by Georges Louis Bourget. And that's when he was reaching obviously 50. And it's that poem that got me writing again, to dig up the old poems that I had. And as Josephine said, release Oblivion, 200 Seasons of Pain and Magic. And 50 years is those 200 seasons. That's a lot of pain and a lot of magic. So you can imagine my absolute delight when Peter asked me to cram it into 10 minutes for you. So anyway, here goes with a beat poem. And this one was that one that I had with the early success with against Peter Levy and Trollope and whatnot. And it's called Bench Sleepers of the World. And the beats have this sort of mythology about the hobo and tramps as they sort of represent or the symbol of this life against the tyranny of the commodity life, 9 to 5, sour norms, and celebrating a different way to live, influenced by Walt Whitman, Thoreau's Walden, and visions of Blake and Buddha. So in this poem, I've kind of added to that mythology of the hobo and the tramp. Bench sleepers of the world, of park and memorial gardens, rose oak grass, with your faces lined with struggle, dead morning smiles, blizzard enduring, tanned and dirty skin, living in a long coat, always a long coat, mice, tender friends in your pockets of myth. Only you can make homes in homes of homelessness. What golden dreams of autumn leafy avenues hide under that great grey beard? And what are the stories of the night known only to you and silent smug toms that walk the tightrope thinness of a park bench, the roof of a dead car, a sill the very length of your humble bench? The rain must seem like nothing more than heaven crying, for you know the railway pigeons, the price of loose change, yesterday's news, the remaining hell of a crust. But lonely old soul, lost soul, soulless soul, what kisses of the world have you tasted, apart from that of sour black tragedy and ice? Thank you. So some people say, what is beat? What on earth is that? To me, it's what's holy about the unholy dawn. It's listening to jazz in a hot bath. It's the look on the door after she's gone. It's the breeze through the open window. Or perhaps it's finding autumn in a Jackson Pollock. And here's a beat poem that's about the seasons, since we're talking about autumn and we're in that time of the year. And it's called Written Rotten. Winter written rotten leaves, leaves die dozing in the rain, sodden the soft, softens leaves, to return ripe to live life below, and slow grow slow to spring, to summer, slow to show green gold glow, then lazily letting go, to lie on the wind while winter waits, waits, waits. Thank you. Okay, so now since it's COP26, and I'm sure like everyone else, you're almost sick of that, and yet, you know, politics is a dirty word. I have been political, but the problem is with politics and life is that it affects your life and it gets in the way, it affects your heart. So I'm going to read this poem called More Content for Our Own Demise. And this kind of reminds me of what Alice, I think it was, that was reading earlier. Number 4. Okay, so this is More Content for Our Own Demise, and it's after Brooks' The Dead, the 1914 poem, and his line that influenced this was, these hearts were woven with of human joys and cares. And I've taken that idea and how innocent those hearts were in that World War I poetry, and what a tragic loss that was. But now we look at the hearts that we have today in this modernity and the life that we have when we're destroying ourselves. And maybe our hearts aren't as innocent and aren't as pure as they were 100 years ago. So it goes like this. This dying world, these pointless lines, these other people with hearts woven of easy vanity and uncaring, permissive hearts that barely beat, who scatter the land with slow ferment of decay as the real books disappear, rarefying like insects in ice sheets. So here comes real kick in the cosmic nuts. The meek shall not inherit the earth. The meek shall pay for it. Haven't you seen? She drowns and burns all the time now on TV. I think maybe, perhaps, only a revolution of the innocence can save us. You know, new innocence with holy learning, new history of the people and earth, unlearning sick tragedies of state, and instead upskilled in people's art of gardening and love. Sweet humility welcomes 100 Vassar tree tenants, grass-roofed leaf cities. New innocence, alive with pulse of cooperation, see all sweet possibility, not salvation of souls, but new righteousness in this life. Secular holy cells with mind flower of Zen peace, seeks end of nations. I'm sick of this dream. When do we put our minds to the grindstone? When does the bus leave for us to go kettle those 6 suited men running the show? And just who is voting for these fuckers? Someone must be. Or maybe it's not the vote that counts. Anyways, and meanwhile, here we stand in the queue, complaining, stand with mute complaint, sharing, scrolling, complaining about the others, standing in the wet socks of dirty brown floodwater, or in the woods, still like a tree, knowing and feeling, watching its own leaves burn. Okay, that's 4, so it must be number 5 next. I've lost my intro notes. So yeah, let's just do this one. Number 5, it's got to be right, isn't it? That's the 5th one. This one is called, is that right? Yeah, Flower Power.
Yeah.
When the universe constructs a flower, she takes all the peace we've wasted, all the sorrow we've ignored, all the hunger of the poor, pulls them together, harvests impossible corn dull of color and grace. Know this life, the life she drops for us all, electric blossom drawn from stars that collapse, the matter in the black. Residue of creation from which she herself awakened in a blinding flash of absolute selfless self. Shows us thing called flower, drops roadside, woods, builds seasons to bloom, and then, when we must, we pluck them for our dead. Use them in the moments when words are not enough, letting, at last, the universe within us speak. Okay, how am I doing for time? I've got time for one more. Wrap it up. One more. This is it. Okay. This is another universe one. I've read these in the wrong order, so you didn't have too much universal stuff, but it's tough luck. This is what you're going to get now. So this is the universe reaching out. Sitting in school, watching the breeze move along the bushes, I see it, the universe reaching out as if one of those uncanny days when the sun and moon occupy the same sky, or the silent red evening when swallows scythe to feel the breeze in the cutting of the air. Unseen, she drops tender light inside a raindrop. Spectrum trapped, a world sliding down purple bell of foxglove. I see her song of moments in memories too. The pale young lady wrists of my grandmother peeling potatoes in cool sink water. Oh, sweet universe, you've spread across the long dawn of forever as thin waves of creation have become, in us, a child helping his father read. Guerrilla poets dropping free verse at graffiti bus stops in the rain. Even an old lady up late in moonlit Frome writing to Israel for the Palestinians. The leap of the whale, fall of a star, ghost of Segovia ringing through a guitar, explosion of bloom, the multitude of green, these songs sing wherever universe declares herself, does so each night under eyes that are closed, gifts us the innate meditate. We sleep illuminated in the black, in the space between the stars, breathe soft without knowing, as she breathes through us, cosmos, with graceful touch, her waves of nothing, empties waiting minds that practice the endless from whence we came and go, so that we might ourselves dream instead, perhaps hymns of moment such as these. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Whew. Another drink,
Wow.
please.
That was fabulous. Absolutely fabulous, Carlos the Unhappy. I can't keep calling you Carlos the Unhappy. I have to say Carlos because I find myself falling over it. But that was brilliant. I mean, such a range of poems. You must look at the chat and see the comments that you were reading. I'd have put more in, but like I almost feel that the better it is, the less comments you can put in because you have to listen. You have to listen.
Thank you.
So fabulous. Please, everybody, unmute and give an amazing applause for Carlos the Unhappy. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. Woo. Well, there we go. That's the end of our first half. Peter, you can stop recording. Hi, well, welcome back to the second half after such a wonderful first half. I just want to do a couple of comments here about next December's Crafty Crows. It's not going to be the usual format. It's going to be the trawler Crafty Crows. Our trawler is our anthology. We had 62 poets, was it, Peter?
65, I think.
65, thank you, Trevor. Brilliant. I should have had a copy with me. Yeah, 65 poets got published in the trawler. Some of them old favourites, some of them new. It's a lovely thing to do. We take all the poems off the GPS group page over the year, and it's lovely to see people getting that first chance of a poem published. I'm not quite sure what those notes are, but anyway, so that's what we're going to do. We will be inviting all of those poets to see if they want to come and read their poem or poems. So that will be happening in the next week or two, so we will have a program ready. We are also going to be giving a couple of awards. We've decided that we're not going to do a winter poetry competition as we did last year. Instead, we're going, pardon?
Which was won by Alice.
Which was won by Alice, yes, sorry. But this year we are going to start doing some GPS awards, and we have chosen 2 poets. One of the awards is for community arts project, and one of the other is for the most, perhaps the most successful poetry promotional event. But all of that on the day. I can't let those out too soon, but that will be coming up. So without any more ado, let's get on to our brilliant feature of the night. Do excuse me. This frog seems to have jumped in and won't get out. Okay, so it's great pleasure that I introduce Nigel Kent. Now, I was very fortunate to read at Nigel's live at Nigel's launch just a few days ago, and it was a wonderful experience. It was great to be behind a mic as well. Nigel Kent is a twice Pushcart Prize nominated poet, 2019 and 20, and a reviewer who lives in rural Worcestershire. He's an active member of the Open University Poetry Society, managing its website and occasionally editing its workshop magazine. He's been shortlisted for several national competitions, and his poetry has appeared in a wide range of anthologies and magazines. Some of his work has been translated by Mariana Zavati Gardner for the literary journals Banchetful and Pro Saeculum. I hope I've pronounced that right. In 2019, Hedgehog Poetry Press published his first collection, and I know I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, Saudade. How do you pronounce it, Nigel?
Saudade, that sounds fine to me. Yeah.
Following the success of his poetry Conversations with Sarah Thomson, Thinking You Home, and A Hostile Environment in August 2020, Hedgehog Poetry Press published his pamphlet Psychopathogen, which was nominated for the 2020 Michael Marks Award for Poetry Pamphlets, and made the Poetry Society's winner list in 2020. And in October 2021, it published his latest collection, a book of ekphrastic poems entitled Unmuted. I would like to just add here, because he's being very humble and not explaining, that he also does a fortnightly review of newly published poets, which is a wonderful service, which I have been taken advantage of too, and this is a wonderful thing on Twitter to read not only the poet's chosen poem, but then the following week his review of that collection. Brilliant. So to find out more, you have to be a Twitter follower and follow him on Twitter at Kent. I'll put it on the link, or visit his website, nigelpoetwordpress.com. I'll put both of those up. So without any more ado, and hopefully with screen sharing that will work, we're in for a wonderful ekphrastic experience. Over to you, Nigel. Big hand, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I've got to say thank you first for inviting me. What brilliant open micers, and such a fantastic set from Carlos as well. I hope I can maintain the standard. I'm going to read, all the poems I'm going to read tonight are from Unmuted, which, as Josephine said, is a collection based on 32 different artworks. And if Peter's ready, I'm going to start with Bus Riders.
Just waiting for you to say when you're ready to start.
Okay. This poem then is based on this fantastic sculpture by George Segal. He makes these amazing pieces from plaster of Paris. And I see him as a sort of three-dimensional Edward Hopper, capturing the alienation of city life. So the Bus Riders, after George Segal. She squeezes up to make space for him, grateful for the break he makes from the bitter blasts of winter air. She feels the stranger's warmth against her arm, against her leg, can smell the long day's labor through his clothes, can even taste the lunch of garlic ham upon his breath, as if they were a couple, filling the empty sofa in her flat, where he would take her hand and cradle it in his, place an arm around her shoulder, listen to her curse the lazy landlord who will not fix the boiler, and hear her fret about the cut in pay she had to take today. But at his stop, he rises, oblivious to her shiver, the white space between them widening with each step, and words which might have made an introduction remain outside, queuing in the freezing rain. The next poem, as you can see, is by Edward Hopper. Hopper must be one of those poets, painters that most poets will have a crack at if they want to write an ekphrastic poem. And in fact, if you haven't read the poem in Josephine's Quietus, based on Hopper's Room in New York, you need to, because it's one of the poems I would have liked to have written and been part of my collection. I think his poems are easy to write because they're like stills from a movie, aren't they? And they invite you to fill in their stories. This is me filling in the story for Automat. In the lull, after the rush, she follows his plan to the final letter, X. She takes her seat at the empty table near the exit, tick. Hat and coat on, ready for the getaway, tick. Back to the window to frustrate the prying eyes of passers-by, tick. Right glove off to hold the cup, left glove on to hide her lie, tick. The crumbs of apple pie, the perfect alibi, tick. She waits, tick, tick, tick. Sipping away the minutes, lips still tasting of the bitterness of this morning's Judas kiss, tick. She listens for the serpent hiss of tires, tick. Hears the muffled thump of a taxi door, tick. And feels his hand on hers, pulling her away into December's darkness. Staying on the theme of relationships, the next poem is inspired by Chagall's Above the City. It's sometimes called The Flying Lovers. If you don't know, Chagall was born into poverty and fell in love with a young woman called Bella Rosenfield, who was the daughter of a very wealthy merchant. And needless to say, her parents didn't approve of the match. Above the City, after Marc Chagall. We took a running leap to clear the gap between us, meeting in midair where I wrapped my arms around you, and perfectly attuned, we soared above their heads, not caring to look down. We span and rolled and looped the loop, painted pictures in the sky, but much too avant-garde for the disapproving eyes of your parents far below, who stubbornly refused to offer their applause. Perhaps they heard us laughing that the match between their daughter and a lowly chap like me could so challenge and confound the force of gravity. Now a couple of poems based on portraits. The first is by Joseph Herman. Joseph Herman was a Polish emigre who settled in Ystradgrynlais in Wales after the war. He painted the people who welcomed him into his community, into their community. And I think I like them so much because they celebrate the lives of ordinary people. His miners, like this one, look as though they've been carved from stone, monuments to their heroism and their sense of community. Head of a Miner, after Joseph Herman. This man doesn't hit the headlines. He doesn't have a chiseled chin, or slick back brill-creamed hair, or teeth that dazzles when he smiles. You won't find him marching on parades with rows of medals glinting in the sun, or see adoring women falling at his feet. He wears instead a uniform of grime, to battle long and hard unseen, deep beneath the valley's fields, to liberate the cold trapped underground. His medals are the backslaps of his mates, and the kisses of a wife who listens for the scrape of boots upon the step, to brush away the vestiges of dread and check her welcome in the mirror before she asks him how his day has been, knowing he will not tell her about the crumbling ceiling of the drift, or the gas they found seeping from the face, or about the cough he suffered from for months but cannot seem to shake. Here's another portrait, and I think it's a portrait of another hero. This time it's painted by Otto Dix in 1926. You just know from this painting that Sylvia von Harden is a remarkable woman. Dix met her by chance in the street and reportedly said to her that he must paint her because she was representative of an entire epoch. At the time of the rise in Germany of National Socialism, Sylvia represents much of what it hated, the new, intellectual, emancipated woman. Portrait of Sylvia von Harden after Otto Dix. She sits alone at a table in the baby pink corner of the club, irony painted on her face. Her monocled eye censures the simpering women draped around the necks of men like pale silk scarves. Her hair, unlike theirs, is grateful it's been spared the tongue's coercion into forelock touching curls. And her figure celebrates its freedom from the stays that squeeze her sister's waists into submission. She drinks a strong martini and draws upon a Russian cigarette, savoring the smoky taste of revolution. Later, she will dance alone, moving to the emancipated rhythms beating wildly in her head. The volume so loud, it silences the boots marching in the street, summoned to protect the ceiling made of glass. One of the things I like about art is that, like poetry, it gives you an insight into experiences you can connect with. And I think Matisse does that in his painting, The Piano Lesson. The Piano Lesson after Henri Matisse. Before the dust had a chance to settle, he threw the sheet across the piano, as if it could silence the memories of a son's fingers clambering clumsily up the scales, then stumbling down again, of a music teacher and a pupil out of tune, of a boy's patience flaring, guttering, burning out, of the last light of day sneaking through the window to fetch its mate out to play, of the metronome's wagging finger willfully ignored, of the unfinished exercise abandoned on the stand, of a sleeping beauty imprisoned in the instrument, of a son who'd thrown away the keys to set it free. I'm going to finish with a poem about the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution. I thought it was appropriate with COP26 happening at the moment, because for me, it's the start of global warming when humankind began to exploit nature for material gain rather than treat it with the respect it warrants. I'm not sure this is what Joseph Wright intended when he painted this picture, but it's what I get from it. An iron forge after Joseph Wright. A sound from the old forge that the villagers hadn't heard before, louder than cannon and mortar, a pounding that makes the ground tremor, the chimneys tremble, shakes rats from the thatches, and spills the poor from their beds who peer from windows fearing the second coming. But this isn't gospel prophecy, more Mammon's manifesto. This is the rhythm of a revolution that has rallied the elements to its cause. This is the might of fire, the force of flood unleashed that drive the village labourers to find asylum in distant city streets. This is the alchemy of leather-aproned blacksmith turned waistcoated industrialist, the manufacturer of a capitalist who leads the march of machinery, his mighty trip hammer beating out time as each resounding blow fashions base metal into gold. That's it. Thank you.
Oh.
Amazing.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much, Nigel. Please unmute yourselves, all of you, because I know some of you don't. But please now, an enormous round of applause for some fabulous poetry.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Oh, if you possibly can get the book, get unmuted. I've put Nigel's website on there, but Nigel, if there is a different link, please do it. I'm hoping that I've got that right.
No, just either message me through Twitter or through my website, and I can get a copy to you at a special launch price.
There. Now, yes, you can't afford.
Who did the artwork, Nigel?
Sorry?
Who did the artwork? Was it yourself?
No, all the artwork are by established artists over time.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And in the book, the pictures are not in the book.
No.
Just the poems, but for the performance, he put the pictures up there, and you can access them.
But if you visit the website, there's links to each of the artworks. So what most people are doing is they're reading the book and clicking on the links to see what the paintings are like. But I actually hope that the poems actually are standalone poems.
They are. When I read the book first time off, I didn't look at pictures deliberately. I wanted to see what was brought to me through the poems, and they were fabulous anyway. But then obviously you get another element when you do go on and look at the pictures. That was brilliant. Thank you so much, Nigel. One more big round of applause, please, for Nigel.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Whoa, right. Woof. So now we can get back on, I think, to the rest of our open mic. So who shall we start with first? David Blenheim.
Thank you.
Is that all right? You're there. Brilliant.
I'm here. I'm ready.
No, actually, it's Blyman, isn't it?
It is. Yes, as in Simple Simon. Yeah. So I always love it when there's a connection between what I've already heard and what I'm going to read. And I'm going to read two poems, and there's a connection with both of them. The first connection is with with Carlos's Standing in Wet Socks, because about a year before the dreaded COVID struck, we were in Chicago where it rained all day, and I discovered that my trainers were not in the least bit waterproof. And my socks were wet, and we were visiting the Field Museum. And so I acquired these dinosaur socks. And so this poem started as a fairly flippant poem about the dinosaur socks I bought at the Field Museum in Chicago. I submitted it to competitions, rejected, submitted again, rejected. Every time the poem changed, and it gradually became more and more serious until it's become an entirely different poem. It's no longer called My Dinosaur Socks. The title now is Extinction Events. And it finally got into the Live Canon 2021 anthology. Extinction Events. There's sun and birds and blossom here, clean air, enough to drink. But to me, this is a goodly prison. We clap for our carers and tap on the plumbing to a man in the neighboring cell who scratches the days of a 5-bar gate on his living room wall. And oh, last spring in Chicago, the loop and the lake and the jazz, sipping cocktails to scrape the sky. My exuberant trainers let in the rain on the way to the Field Museum. So distant now, it feels Cretaceous. not even us, not us at all, but deep bone time, accessible by excavation. Someone slightly familiar, classified as female by the pelvis, sees a gift shop lurking behind the titanosaur. They surely sell socks, she says. And oh, the world they ruled will never be the same. Feet dry now, confined. I like to wear those dinosaur socks, soft slippers, sink into beer, skip over sticky sentiments. Thank you. And now, of course, I'm going to read from my pamphlet, This Kilt of Many Colours, and you may see a connection with the Chagall painting because the fiddler is flying above the table. And there's also a connection with Nigel because Nigel is a sort of national treasure for us poets, and his WordPress blog is such a generous thing where he takes the trouble and time to review other poets' work and to help to promote it. So a very, very generous man. I've already pasted into the chat, and I'll do it again, Nigel's feature on this very pamphlet. I'll read one poem from here, and the poem is called Schwelbele, and Schwelbele is a rather obscure Yiddish word meaning little swallow. It's a sort of a lovely diminutive word, which we discovered when fairly recently we found these letters in Yiddish, which my great-grandmother had written in 1931. And the Schwelbele that she's talking about is my mother, who's still alive and who is herself now 91. So in 1931, we have the epigraph, letter from Lemberg. With God's help, the beloved little Schwelbele has no doubt already perfectly recovered. My mum must have had a cold or something. Stare me out, my little swallow, without words, wanting the world. What will you find? Behind these weary eyes, I swoop space-time to Africa and back, thoughts on thermals gliding, to those worlds I wish for you, and as a tourist from the future visiting my mother's origins. Will you find what I have buried there in reed beds where I roosted, resolving to return? In some marshy mud nest down where brackish waters wash? Or in eaves of outhouses lodged on ledges out of light? If there's a map, it's a letter in a shaky script in Yiddish from my mother's distant granny, about to be lost in a forgotten city of a dead empire. Transliteration and translation, inference and conversation, transcribe another Schwelbele, newly hatched in 1930. We are a sweep of swallows, and we wander on the wing. So keep searching, little swallow, that you may inscribe your meanings in this seasonal migration, origin and destination, nests you'll find and flights you'll take in the makings of your mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David Blyman. Please, big hand for David. Brilliant. We have such quality in our open mic tonight. Brilliant. Now, next up, I've got Gerald Kells, but just before I do, Catherine, I didn't know whether you wanted to do an open mic tonight. Do you want to read a poem? You're muted.
Yes, I'd love to.
Okay, because we haven't got Anne MacDonald with us, so
Lovely.
you can take her slot. That will be after Julie Stevens, okay?
Lovely.
Okay, then we'll go straight on with Gerald, please. Hi, Gerald.
Oh, yeah. What's it for? The unpublished novel destroyed in the war. Not for the author, he is dead. Not for the readers, it is unread. Not for the soldier, the bomber, the thief. Perhaps it's for God. Did he get some relief when up in the clouds he reads a bit more of the unpublished novel destroyed in the war? That one? That one?
Something after my own heart there, Gerald.
Here's another little one. Into space they boldly go, but not too long because they'll need the loo. So that's for Jeff Bezos and William Shatner at this time of ecological crisis. And I was asked, I did a couple of COP26, I've done one and I've got another event, and I was asked to write a positive poem, which for me is tricky. So this is called You Can Build a Bridge. And this is, let's hope they do the right thing at COP26. You can build a bridge. You can build a bridge out of concrete. You can span a river or sea or ocean. You can build a bridge out of wood. You can span a hill or forest or mountain. You can build a bridge out of paper. You can span a meeting or novel or poem. You can build a bridge out of plastic. You can span a rubbish dump or a continent. You can build a bridge out of pollution. You can send it up and across and all over the world. Or you can build a bridge of hope. Take all the ideas and dreams and inspiration. Take it from the young and the old, the dispossessed and the wealthy. Take it from the bankers and the workers and the politicians. And with that bridge of hope, you can span more than concrete and wood and paper and plastic. You can span the mind of the world. And that bridge can be a bridge to the future, cleaner, wiser, and green. That's just me.
Brilliant, Gerald. Thank you very much. Big hand for Gerald Hells, ladies and gentlemen. Brilliant. Okay, let's move on to Julie. Julie Stevens, please. Welcome.
Thank you, Josephine, for having me. I'm going to read two poems from my stickleback micro pamphlet that was published by Hedgehog Poetry Press. The first one is about how I often have to leave outings, social events, something or other early because my MS legs decide they've had enough and I get too tired. This is called First to Leave. They know you're coming. The grass is like a dancer's smooth arch, leaning to sigh. Tree branches mocking, their rough skin breaking the stare of desperate eyes. The ground beneath jerks stubbornly as you scrape with no remorse. Hurting to leave, hurting to arrive, no escape. The usual fleeing as the fun is born, always a deserter wounded on the path home. A graceful sparrow gestures the way forwards, air bursting, trying to soothe. The leaf may be cold, but it finds these moments waiting, like blossom sheltering the earth. Arrival at the car marks the end of the turbulent crossing. Find comfort knowing the most soothing sound is now your breath, cradling the warmth inside. Too weak to stay, too empty to feel. Go now. Thank you. And the next comes from the simple act of washing up, something which I do like, but standing still, it leads to wobbly legs, of course, after a while, and I often feel I'm going to fall into the sink. Never mind that. But I call it free falling. Waiting for the next drowning means the day slides low, holding hours that slump to corners, never rising to call. The swift decline of motion means another landing missed, a chair sailing past, or finding a hard ledge to weaken on. You're swaying at the sink when the falling starts, hands wrestling with water. The bowls are stronger than you. A cup of coffee doesn't rest on air, nor a plate of biscuits, soggy and mashed. Free falling should never be practiced indoors. Sometimes you've just got to climb. There we go. Thank you.
Brilliant, Julie. Thank you so much. They're brilliant. Can you please give a big hand for Julie Stevens? You put your link in the chat, Julie.
Yes, I will. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You are jumping Jules, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I am jumping Jules.
Because I very often comments flying backwards and forwards, but I hadn't linked you. Brilliant. Nice to meet you virtually, at least. So thank you, Julie. That was brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on then. Who have we got? Actually, if you're okay, Catherine, can I have Trevor Valentine next? Because he's been waiting a long time for me to tell him. Have you got your white flower and newspaper ready?
Telegraph. Yeah.
He told me that he would he'd be able to recognize me by that when he got here.
Right. Carlos said you performed to your audience. Well, you must all be children, so there you go. Halloween and the Crocodile. This is actually a true story as a context. When I was about 6 or 7, I was late for school because I couldn't get out of my bed because there surely was a crocodile underneath the bed, and if I put my feet outside the bed, he was going to snap them off. So inspired by that. Day and night's a terrible fright, and not a sight of a scare or nightmare. For under the sheets the child retreats, cocooned, marooned, while under the bed impending dread the croc awaits for tempting bait of a child's feet. It's only meat to him, you see. And then the knee, a pleasant sip of a quivering hip. He finds it yummy, and then the tummy is bitten in two. What to do? Nothing is best as a non-hairy chest. He moves on to the neck. No need to check or stop and pin. Straight on to the chin. The mouth is south of the nose and eyes. Without surprise, the hair is licked. At the final trick, the croc licks his lips. The child smiles and quips. Hip, hip, hooray! No school today. So, in complete contrast, and the only link between these two poems is this mentions a crocodile as well, but in a completely different, furtive way. Well, just as furtive, perhaps. And Alice Stainer, this is about COP26 as well, or whatever it is. And Catherine, you've got one as well, haven't you, coming up? So
I probably won't read that one.
Okay, this is called Timber Cries. Timber Cries. It's written 2 days ago. Timber, cries the crushing world. falling upon the crocodile eyes, poking from underneath the shoreline, its eternity unfettered, its timeline content to wait, sits quietly until we are all gone. From choke-filled ashes, only the mythical phoenix will survive. See, O2, the blanket smothering your cold, soon inert breath. Yet saunter on into your own discreet doom, no gloom, for walking backwards you only see the footprints behind you, not the once ice cliff in front. Timber cries in ignorance and darkness. The shoreline grows, white horse stallions stand ready to clutch, to snap, snatch, to reap, to scythe grimly.
Brilliantly dark, Trevor Valentine, brilliant. Thank you so much. Can you unmute and give a big hand to our own Trevor Valentine? Next time you come, we'll have to get him to sing, because that is really a fabulous experience. Okay, and last but not least, Catherine, welcome.
Thank you, Josephine. I won't read the cop Villanelle, but I will read a Villanelle. This is about a very local poem. It's about the Quaker meeting house at Painswick. Light mines this place. The wall is catching the last of the day, and we leave the hooks of our lives behind, here where the valley is falling away. Or pick up the stitches we dropped on the way and gather our thoughts and retune our mind where the wall is catching the last of the day. Here in the quiet, we can unsay intemperate words and thoughts not kind. Here where the valley is falling away. Here we can listen, that's how we pray. Loosen the knots and let them unwind as the wall is catching the last of the day. The crows are still making their raucous affray, but sounds are far off when the sun's in decline, here where the valley is falling away. Light mines this place. When we are astray, it will stay warm, and stone will remind the wall it is catching the last of the day, here where the valley is falling away. I'll read one last poem then, which is from my sequence of poems on Ivor Gurney, so it's also local. Squaring. Virtue lies, you said, in making squares. The order of Roman camps and roads. Odd from one who shirked the tidy life, set hours, regular meals, those tyrannies. Yet, studying the intricacies of Bird and Bach, loving the solidity of the great cathedral tower, you volunteered for army life and all that discipline of drill and endless cleaning. And despite your obstinate, odd versifying, elisions, strange syntax, crowded lines, you stuck with rhyme and meter, just about, as if you feared the consequence of letting it all out without restraint of riverbank, that Dionysian tide that floods the Severn Valley and sweeps everything aside. Thank you.
Fabulous, brilliant poems. Thank you, Catherine. Do you live in Painswick?
I sort of do, but I mostly now live in Stroud.
All right, because we're just the other side in Brockworth. So to get to Stroud, I go through Painswick every time. A big, enormous hand, please, for those fabulous poems from Catherine. Wow. Right. Well, I think we have come to an end, but if everybody's going to be patient, I could actually, if Peter's there, could I share a poem, please?
Share?
Yes. Is that possible?
I don't understand what you mean.
So if you can give me the ability to share a poem, you have to, because you disable it, so you have to allow me to share it.
You mean spastically? Do you want to be a co-host? There you go.
Okay.
You're a co-host.
Thank you. Hang on. No, that's not right. Get it up. Okay. I'm not doing this very well. Here we go. I think we're there. Hopefully. Can anybody see that?
Yep.
Yes. Hold on. I'll expand it a bit. There we go. I only wrote this the other day, but because everybody's been talking about Chagall, I thought, well, I've got to read it. So I'm being selfish here. But so it was called Edits because I've changed it today. So we'll see how it goes. I've never read it out loud before. So these are all fragments of different Chagall's paintings. A full moon hangs in the sky. A chandelier, its candles aflame and flickering as clouds sweep past. Notes from a fiddle stream from an open window. A perfumed bouquet floats in indigo air. This is a night for pirouetting in deep blue, for dancing above chimneys in the moonlight. A ghostly bride, white in gown and veil, drifts like faint mist over the town. A cockerel turns mid-flight, one eye to the sky, one on the ground, as he crows for dawn. Lions and goats sleep under dark trees, as an angel blows her trumpet. A snake slips from the leaves. There you go. Thank you. So we've come to, thank you. We've come to the end of Crafty Crows. If you'd like to stop recording, Peter. Thank you, everybody who